Ohio State stuff, you got the unique scenario, men's and women's hockey teams number one in the nation. And just kind of want to get your thoughts on, Wisconsin hockey these days.
Well, it's exciting for Mike and his staff and his team. They've certainly made a statement in the first month and a half of the season. But if you know Mike's background and his ability and his coaching, some people might be really surprised. I think some of that know him pretty well understand what he's capable of doing, and he's certainly been able to do that with the players he's brought in and the group he's put together, and they're fun to watch. I was unfortunately not at the Kohl Center for their last two home games, but it sounded like the energy was in the building like it's been in the past, and so it creates a lot of enthusiasm for his program, but also at the same time it creates a lot of energy around Madison and the community with hockey, whether it's a women's program or the men's program. So it's a good space for us to be in, but it's only early November. And the only rankings that really mean anything in the world of coaching is the last one, so that's what we're pushing for.
Your team in Ohio State was built to the point, so throw out the number one versus number two, but they both built to the point where they're elite teams. Obviously played for a championship last season. What do you look forward to out of this weekend as maybe something that's going to tell you more about your group?
That's what I'm looking forward to. I'm excited just because of that opportunity. Obviously, we've gotten off to a good start. We've been fighting a little bit of the injury bug, but after Friday and Saturday's game, as a coaching staff, we're going to have information about our team. Whether it's the goaltenders, whether it's our defensemen, whether it's our power play, penalty kill, all the different areas that we work on. We're going to have a better idea because, going into Columbus is probably one of the toughest facilities to go in and play nowadays just because of what they've been able to put together the last 5 or 6 years. And, they play an aggressive style. They're in their face. They forecheck very strongly. So you can bend a bunch of times, but you don't want to break. But it's going to be exciting. And then obviously we have a weekend off. We'll come back against a very strong Duluth team and then wrap the first half of the season up in Minnesota. So you look at those 6 games, and at the end of them, whether we've been successful or we haven't been successful, we're in a position to become a better hockey team because of those 6 experiences. That's how I look at it, and so I get excited because we're gonna be put on our heels for a period of time down there Friday night, and how do we respond? And how, when adversity comes, what's it look like? And so. We faced a little bit that weekend up in St. Cloud, and we responded. Our compete level went up high and did enough to win hockey games. And what's it going to look like Friday and Saturday? That's what I get excited about.
It's been a tough place for you to score goals in the last couple of seasons in Columbus. That's a function of how they play, I know. But is there more you feel like you can do to generate some things there?
Well, I don't know. Maybe Jackie. My assistant, I remember she got a hat trick down there, I think in the second period of one of those games. She doesn't have any eligibility left, so she can't play, so there goes 3 goals right there. But, it's both ways. They play well defensively. Their goaltenders have been good. Obviously, the last couple of years with Jacques back there, their defense has been strong. So whether it's Wisconsin, Minnesota, Colgate, whoever's been playing in there, you don't get a lot of quality opportunities. So if you do get, 2, 3, 4 power plays, that's the best time to create those scoring opportunities. And can you capitalize on that? And so the big thing for me is about the compete level, because it's a smaller sheet, and are we going to compete at the level we're going to be able to do in order to be successful? And that, if we do that, then you give yourself a chance to win. And so.
You mentioned power play, knowing that even though we've had some different personnel running through there, Kent being out and then Anna being out last game, how is that managed? What have you seen that's managed to keep contributing? Even if it's 1 goal, that's still, again, St. Cloud, that's a pretty big count.
Yeah, so your power play can struggle, and then all of a sudden you get one with 4 or 5 minutes to go in a game where it's tied, and you capitalize. Then your power play is good because it's just won you a game. And so, if you're able to, Friday's game, if you get a power play, in the first period and you capitalize and you go up 1-0, that sets a good tone. So. Whether Annie's been back there or whether KK and, Viv, worked the power play up in St. Cloud, the 4 other people have some good chemistry. And so the point person, he needs to be able to distribute the puck, maybe get a shot on net to create a rebound. But it's just all about the chemistry of the 5 people on the ice, and trying to figure out what the penalty killers are doing, and then compensate and try to create some scoring opportunities, which we've been able to do. And being down there, they're going to pressure on the penalty kill a little bit more than the other teams have, and so it makes a little bit more challenging, because if you don't move the puck, they're going to intercept it, steal it, ice it, and then you got to try to reload and bring it back into the zone. So game of cat and mouse, and again, I get excited about it because at the end of the weekend, we're going to have a little bit more information about us as a team, and that's what is most important to me.
Overall, how does this Ohio State team compare to the one you faced last year in the title game?
I would say they're probably deeper. They picked up 5 or 6 players, whether through the transfer portal or kids coming over from other teams, and so they've created some more depth than they had last year, and so that's how I would look at the 2 teams compared to where they were last year. Obviously, they had some go-to players. They had the Patty Kazmaier winner, and so this year just seems to be a little bit deeper than they were last year.
As far as Layla goes, and what the opportunity she had last week with the national team, kind of want to get your thoughts on her here, sophomore year. What kind of stands out to you about her development from maybe year 1 to year 2 at this point?
Well, I think she's just more comfortable, as we've seen in the past. With our sophomore players, they're more comfortable because school's not new to them. The travel's not new. The coaching staff's not new. They're just more comfortable. They've had a couple summers of off-ice training. They've had 40-plus games of competition within our league, and so they're seasoned. And she's no different. She's worked extremely hard. She's put herself in a good position. She's created a platform now. She can use that platform to, create some energy and create a vision of what some younger kids that maybe never thought about becoming a hockey player all of a sudden see Layla, getting a chance to play with our national team, and all of a sudden it sparks an interest, and that young lady or young man goes over and says to mom and dad, hey, can I buy a pair of skates and can I go try hockey? And so she's using her platform. I'm just excited to see where she can take her game, because I think she's just tapping the surface right now and can continue to get better. And as her confidence and the different parts of her game continue to get better, it's just going to have more of an impact on our team and certainly college hockey.
Do you have any more clarity on KK when you might get her back?
She started skating yesterday. It was a great day. She started skating, so from a coaching standpoint, you see her on the ice. She's skating by herself, and so with most injuries, it's we've set up a plan, with our training staff and our strength training coach, and now it's just sticking to the plan and giving her enough time to get herself in a position where she's comfortable to practice with other players. And then as that goes along, then it's like, okay, can we get her into a game? And so, we've got a plan together, and so hopefully there's no setbacks, but, the couple of days that she's been on the ice, she's moving in a real positive direction. No, she won't play this weekend. No. She's doing pretty good. She's on the ice practicing, and so, it's looking positive. But that can change this afternoon pretty quick. Yeah.
Your top defender, you don't want another one now with that.
No.
Changes what you want to do depth-wise defensively, so I imagine that's a pretty big.
Yes, that's why we don't sleep very well at night. Coaches don't anyway. So you're trying to deal with this stuff, but at the end of the day, whether she plays or she doesn't play, it's the same thing. I'm gonna get information about us. And obviously, they're going to be sky high and they're going to be fired up. And that first 10 minutes Friday is going to look like a hornet's nest. I mean, here come the hornets. They're going to be buzzing. And so how do we we're going to react positively? Are we going to do the things necessary to relieve that pressure? That's what we work on the next couple of days. And then we drop the puck, and it's going to be at the end of the first period. Yes, we did. No, we didn't. Or what do we need to do to get better? So, game 13 and game 14 will be good for us.
You set the bar for excellence in women's hockey for a long time. The men's program had a little bit of a dip in productivity and taking the part that they set for themselves. With them now reaching number one again, how does that help your program bring more awareness to the women's program? Is it you probably didn't have enough already? You could always use more. Does it help or does it detract from the attention the women are receiving?
I look at it as it only helps. You know, it only helps obviously with the people around Madison, around the state, around the country. You know, it helps our athletic department. You know, anytime you have a program, whether it's men's hockey, women's hockey, volleyball, women's, you know, soccer, I mean, the stronger everybody is, it's the better for everybody. And so if our football team's doing really well and winning a lot of games, that helps everybody out. And so if we can get men's and women's hockey doing really well on a consistent basis, it only helps out the hockey fans. So, you know, somebody sitting back all of a sudden see both programs at number one, never been to a women's game or never been to a men's game, they may try one or the other. And all of a sudden they come to the Kohl Center, sit down and watch, you know, Mike's team plays, or comes to Bond and watches our team plays and like what they see. So now they come back. Now they go talk Monday morning at coffee with their coworkers, and they're talking about what they did Friday, Saturday night, Saturday afternoon, Sunday afternoon. It just creates interest. And so now we've got, you know, starting in January, you know, women's pro hockey going to happening in 6 different cities. And so they're starting training camp shortly here. And so that creates interest. And so the more interest there is, the more cameras we have, the more exposure, the more kids are going to get involved. And so it helps everybody. So I'm happy for Mike. I'm happy for the men's program. And, you know, they've got a real good team. If you haven't seen them play, I would encourage you coming out to watch them play, because it's not a fluke. They're a legitimate team, and they're at number one for a reason.
How do the programs, to follow, how do the programs players, with men and women, do they get a lot of time to interact between each other? And how do they build between each other to build the entire hockey program at Madison up? Do you see a lot of that between?
I think you see a lot of, especially the freshmen that come in during the summer, they spend a lot of time with some of the other programs because they're doing the same type of classes. They're doing some things together. So a football player and a women's volleyball player, men's hockey player, they get to know one another. I think that helps the process as they become student athletes when September starts. So we're in the same space as men's hockey, men's and women's basketball. And so whether we're practicing at the same times, they could be eating together, they could be having lunch together. And I think what I've found over the course of my tenure here, and that's been a pretty long time, is that, you know, generally the athletes support one another. And so I know our players go to women volleyball games. I know they've gone to women's soccer games. They attend the men's hockey games. And so it's just everybody supporting, everybody helping one another, and everybody trying to go in a positive direction and do what they can do to help that program have success.
Did anyone ask about the WHL? I know they had talked about maybe playing games on neutral sites, and it seemed like this might be a decent one, given the fan base here has always been supportive of women's hockey. Did anyone?
I think as time goes along, you know, it might be something that they reach out or we reach out. I know the Minnesota team will be going down to Nashville and playing some games. And so again, if you can expose the product, and we've done that with our Wisconsin women's hockey team. We've played, you know, in different areas, San Jose, we've played in Long Beach, we've played in Fort Myers, we've played in a lot of different areas that have girls' youth hockey, but they don't have college women's hockey. And so you take that product and you showcase it in that area, you generally get good fan support, and then you attach a clinic. So you have a youth clinic when you're all said and done before you leave town, and all of a sudden it creates interest. And again, you might just spark an interest in one family or 2 families, and all of a sudden, you know, you got these kids that are playing hockey. Well, what got you into hockey? Well, I saw Wisconsin play Northeastern in Vail, Colorado. And then I went to a clinic and I got to know Annie Pankowski. And then I did this and I did that, and all of a sudden, you know, we're playing against her, she's playing at Wisconsin. So you're just planting seeds into, you know, your question, again, you're planting seeds in a community. And, you know, I saw it firsthand when my dad came into Wisconsin back in the, you know, the middle 60s, and, you know, nobody really knew what a hockey puck was and what offside was. And so you go to a Kiwanis club, you go to this thing, you plant a seed, you challenge people, and the next thing you know, you're filling up the Coliseum with 8,000 people to come and watch hockey on a Friday and Saturday night. And so those are the things that I think as coaches we try to do, and you may not see your fruit next year or the year after, but then all of a sudden somebody comes up to you and tells you a story about this game that you played in San Jose, California against Providence. and their daughter saw the game, and the next thing you know, she's playing at Quinnipiac, or she's playing at Minnesota, or she's playing and wants to come to Wisconsin. And so those are the things I think, and the things that we try to do, put a smile on your face.